Ladies, gentlemen, and everybody in between, welcome back to the Transgender Zone podcast.
Hello.
I'm your host, Victoria,
And I am the second host and husband, Christopher.
and today we're doing something a little different. We are going to be interviewing one of our first ever moderators, Ebony. She is a fantastic member of Transgender Zone. She's been there pretty much from the start. And she's just been a really great contributor. You know, we've gotten close. Actually, she and I personally have gotten close. And we have a lot of similar interests. She spent a few years living in Japan. She is a big fan of goth culture, goth music. And this was sort of my uniform for quite some time. And I figured I'll break it out for the Ebony episode.
Yeah, and Ebony also hosts our community circle
Yes.
on Sundays. So our members, as we were starting to get to know folks and having live sessions, we realized that, folks wanted a chance about nothing in particular at all to just get together and chat. And so Ebony is the host of our community circle where folks just show up and chat about what's on their mind. And it's a 2 hour long session. It started as an hour, it turned into 2 hours. So
Yeah.
one of the benefits of being a member at Transgender Zone is getting access to that meeting.
And that's part of what is just so special. One of the many things that's so special, and I'll gas her up, I'm sure, in the interview about Ebony, that she volunteered her time. She said, "Oh, we should do this because people want it. And like, I'll do this
Yeah.
for free because I want to do it." And then she said, "Hey, people want it to be longer. I'll extend it to 2 hours if that's okay." And we're like, "Sure." She's just really been a really great sport for so many things. I mean, even this interview we had to move up, and she was like, "Sure, no problem."
Yeah,
Like,
got it.
she's great. So, yeah, I have a lot of questions for her. So I figure we should just roll right into it.
Yeah, without further ado, we're going to bring on Ebony.
Welcome, Ebony. Hi there, Ebony. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. It is an honor to be here. And thank you so much for setting this up. I am super excited.
Yeah, thanks so much for donating some of your time to us. You're actually our first guest. So yeah, why don't you tell us your pronouns and how did you get involved with Transgender Zone?
All right. So my name is Ebony, she, her. I actually discovered you quite a while ago when I was still not out yet. And I was getting ready to come out and looking for information on transitioning and looking for other people on YouTube who had had similar experiences and were, kind of my path makers, so to speak. And after I saw your post about it on Instagram, I believe, I was immediately interested and I joined. And um, it's been amazing, and I love being a moderator, and it's been such a rewarding experience. I love the users there. I love the community, and making real life friends, actually. And it's such an amazing experience. Thank
Yay!
you.
Well, you're one of my real life friends from Transgender Zone myself. Like, I mean, you and I chat outside of Transgender Zone, and like, I've connected with so many of the other folks there too. It's been so good. Like, it just makes me so happy. We were talking recently about how trans folks often only get spotlight for their transition, and of course, like on this podcast, that's kind of the whole point. We want to tell the stories of different trans folks from Transgender Zone. But also we want to hear about what you're currently doing. Like, what's something that you're currently working on outside of transition, maybe artistically or professionally, that you're really excited about?
Oh, thank you. That is such an awesome question. Yes, I am a experimental musician here in Vancouver. I do a genre of industrial music called dark ambience. My project's name is Kanashibari. I've got my music up on Bandcamp, and I am kind of part of an occult music collective here in Vancouver of multiple genres, from goth to like death metal, etc. And I also am an aspiring horror writer. I have a dark fantasy slash cosmic horror novel in the works that deals with a lot of existential concepts, and I'm so excited about getting it finished soon, and putting it out there. And aside from that, I am a tech student at BCIT, um, and hope to one day get into making my own game design company with virtual reality.
Oh
Thank
my God, I
you.
love that. You got a lot of irons in the
A
fire,
lot of
girl.
irons in the fire, yeah. And I know, like Washington in the United States is the place for experimental music, like Portland, and that like that's the hub. So it's cool to know that British
Yeah. And so,
Columbia also
yeah, I was gonna say, does
grabs
that
on.
mean like as far as Canada goes, would like British Columbia, maybe Vancouver be a kind of a hot spot for that kind of genre?
Canada's music history is very interesting because we've been very scattered with a lot of anomalous bands. I know that right next to us is Seattle, so therefore we've had the grunge movement in the
Hmm.
80s and 90s. Um, and in the 80s in Vancouver, we had industrial music such as Skinny Puppy, and I still keep contact with Kevin Key, who's a friend of mine.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
and
That's
yeah,
awesome.
Frontline Assembly was right after them, and we do have like a burgeoning sort of goth, metal, punk, and industrial history here. For example, for punk too, we have DOA and um, various other SNFU was another one. Of we got a very rich punk culture here. So being creative here, despite the poverty of living in a very expensive city, I think that's part of what drives it and part of what creates such a strong community here, especially in the alternative scene. And it is a place that more than anywhere else, I feel very safe for being who I am and very accepted.
That's so important. And also, especially now that we know that Canada is in a safe spot in terms of the elections, that's fantastic. Congratulations. Like, oh my gosh, that is so good. But
Mm.
I eventually, I really want to have you on for an additional interview eventually, if you'd be so kind, to really dive deep into the intersection of alternative culture and like goth culture and queer culture. I know for me, I really found a lot of solace and like belonging in the alternative community. Of course, it's a music based subculture, and I started really enjoying the music and that bled into the style and the lifestyle and the movies and the art, literature, all of that. So, in what ways have you personally found solace in the alternative community as a queer person, as a closeted trans person, into being now the beautiful, glamorous goth trans woman you are today?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm kind of dressed down today. I know black lipstick or teased hair, but music was always kind of my solace from just everyday life. I was born in the 80s, which wasn't a very progressive era, in a very religious sort of environment at the time. In the 90s, I was in high school. I was already bullied just for having long hair and
Right.
dressing in black. So, um, I wasn't able to come out until later, but I knew very early who I was. Music was my escapism, and one of the first artists I really, really remember discovering and latching onto and loving and adoring was a German artist. Her name is Anna Varney Cantodea, and her project's name is called Sopor Aeternus, which is Latin for eternal sleep.
Mm,
And everything about that project, the lyrics, the music, her stories and her interviews, everything, I was just like, oh my God, this is like me further down the road. And I could understand it so much. It was such a clear bell. And I think the goth scene more than, well, actually, no. The goth scene has always been very acceptive of visual presentations and
Mm.
androgynous presentation. It has been a very queer coded culture, even though there's been a few hiccups in the past getting to know more people from the 80s scene and subculture and having met them and heard stories. Um, However, the industrial scene is also underrated in the fact that it has been kind of a solace for queer people as well. The group Throbbing Gristle was an extremely transgressive group in the 70s, but the main vocalist, Genesis P. Orridge, they came out as non-binary very late into their career after having already a very long career behind them. And others, it was very connected to surrealism, the occult, queer culture, and it all kind of blended together at that time. So there was so much expressive art of sexuality and gender and just transgressive culture all over the place. And it was a burgeoning sort of haven for just being free and expressing yourself. I also I performed once and made friends with Cindy Talk while I was in Japan organizing events. And Cindy Talk was also one of the first trans people in the scene that I kind of got to know and kind of became friends with. I haven't talked to her for a long time, but she remembers me.
The alternative community pretty notoriously is very accepting of like playing with gender. I think that has always been one of the foundations. Now, of course, no culture or subculture is perfect, but men in makeup, women with buzzed hair, or, like the punks, the goths, the industrial folks, the new metal. There's a very wide array of different ethnicities, different, cultures, and that includes queer people. There's a lot of maybe straight men in makeup and long hair. There's a lot of gay men with the same thing, or trans people. And it's just a really interesting, diverse, like melting pot of sort of misfits in general society. And I know myself, I very much felt that way. And Chris, I don't mean to steamroll you a little bit with the questions.
No, it's totally fine. I think what's interesting to me though is that what you're saying is the goth culture was a place for somebody who was confused and trying to figure out who they were to go and experiment without having to come out as trans. You could be goth, experiment with makeup as somebody assigned male at birth without having to say, like, I'm transitioning. It's like you just got to wear makeup to school because you were goth.
That's true. And I find that being alternative goth, whatever, is, I mean, it's not a phase, mom. It's not necessarily a phase. But it is welcoming to people who want to experiment and play with their gender. And it's very attractive to people who are looking for an excuse to like wear some different clothing or some like different styles and experiment with themselves, where it's generally more accepting than the general public, so to speak. You mentioned that you are a child of the 80s. So what was it like for you growing up in that time? And when was sort of your first exposure to trans folks, and what made you realize that, oh, maybe this is who I am?
Wow, that's very multifaceted, because the 80s and even the 90s, we didn't have like the numbers of positive representation in media like we do now, where there are so many like great artists and influencers out there, really showing the world who we are. Back in the 80s, I was very much kind of in a I wouldn't say it was like an extremely conservative upbringing, but there was just no knowledge about it. Though I would say like early childhood, right from the beginning, I knew something was up. I knew I didn't feel comfortable in my body. I had no idea why I have three sisters, and I had no idea why that they were treated different than me, because I didn't see myself as different. I'm like, why do I have to play with the boys? Why do I have to like watch this show and not this show? And why do I have to dress like this and not like this? And I didn't understand anything about at that time, like the culture surrounding biology. I thought people could transform as they got older, and at that age, I thought everything was fluid. I had a rude awakening getting acquainted with bigotry and prejudice and intolerance growing up, and realizing the harsh truth of the world and society. So on my own, I had already been able to, and I think you mentioned this in a previous podcast about dreams and being female in dreams. That was the first really big clue for me that, oh, wow, I'm a woman trapped in this body. And in high school, I did get to know about trans people, and I knew that time it was a horrible era. It was the era of Jerry Springer, Silence of the Lambs, Ace Ventura,
And
South
towards
Park.
the tail end of the AIDS epidemic.
Yes, there was so much like gay panic out there, and I mean, people are intolerant to a musician like Marilyn Manson being a straight guy wearing makeup and kind of presenting subversive content about religion,
Mhm.
let alone being able to even wrap their heads around us. We were like urban legends whispered about by like in locker rooms at high school.
Mhm.
Hmm.
However, hearing
Yeah.
that, it was possible to change our bodies and being able to change our gender and identity. I'm like, I want that so badly, but I was so ashamed to come out at the time because of the fear, like just the fear of what other people's reactions would be. And there was one very specific moment in a biology class where we were talking about the human brain, and they had a video on babies' brains and the differences between male and female brains. And they had, babies in the room with their mothers saying, okay, in this situation, how would the baby boy deal with it? How would the baby girl deal with it? And then afterwards, they talked about, well, some people's brains aren't exactly lined up with the sex assigned at birth. And
Right.
these people usually end up discovering that they are, in fact, transgender later in life and end up transitioning. And I'm just like, oh my God, that is me to a
Yeah.
T. I knew that
Mhm.
was me. There was no doubt. But then my whole life, it was just like, but if I come out, I'll lose everything. So
Yeah.
that was a sad moment for me. But eventually I got there.
Well, and
Unfortunately.
let's talk about getting there as well. A few things, and I want to bring up in maybe a future podcast for sure. But not only were you coming like blooming as a person around the time of the AIDS epidemic, but also around Satanic Panic. So as a goth person and a queer person, like gay panic, Satanic Panic, it was just not an easy time to be Ebony, you know? So, I
Yeah,
mean,
goth was
no
hard
one,
enough
right. No one
just
can
on its
blame
own.
you for not feeling comfortable. But I do want to talk about the tipping point where you realize like, yes, you realized this is me. And then you had the time where you were like, but I don't know that I can do this. And can I really live the way that I truly am? When was it too much to fake anymore? When was it that you realized like I have to come out and accept myself for being Ebony?
In Japan, I did have sort of a false start because I was um just so fed up with hiding who I was and being in the Japanese goth scene where there's so much more embrace of gender and embrace of a very, I would say, predominantly feminine expression. For
Hmm.
example, visual kei and everything. I was, every day wearing makeup, corsets, dresses. I'm just like, it wouldn't be such a jump to just say I'm a woman and then pursue physical transition. Um, Things happened, life happened, jobs, marriage, etc. And I kind of went back in the closet for 20 years. But I think it was right around a painful point. Well, it had all been coming to a head after moving back to Canada. And every year, just getting deeper and deeper into depression and unhealthy habits. I gained lots of weight. You could tell I was losing my hair. I was incredibly pale. Um, and there was, a point where I realized that if I didn't come out right now, like as soon as possible and start my transition, I would probably have ended up taking my own life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was a very emotional moment for me. Where I was just like, whatever flaws, or sorry, not flaws, whatever um, cons would come with me coming out and maybe losing a lot of the things that I had, um, me not being here would be far worse.
Yeah.
Correct.
And luckily, I came out when I was working in a very accepting environment in a bookstore in Indigo, which is actually an amazing company. Sadly, they still carry Potter books, but oh well. It was a very queer, inclusive environment, and I just came to a morning meeting as Ebony, and I've been Ebony ever since.
Oh, I love that.
Mm.
That's so fantastic. I love to hear it. I know a lot of people like there. there comes a time where you just can't hide it anymore. And I think that's also something that people don't quite understand. Like the people who are anti-trans don't get that, like, we tried everything else. Like we tried other things. Transition. No one's like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna start taking hormones one day and like totally uproot my entire life. Like there
Mm-hmm.
are so many things that come before that. And yeah, there's a point where I can't pretend anymore. I can't play a role of someone that I'm not. You mentioned being in Japan, which is super cool. I know you and I have discussed that quite a bit. I am studying Japanese and we'll sometimes kind of giggle back and forth together. But what brought you to Japan?
Oh, that was interesting because I told you about Sober Eternus, and a big part of her image was Buto performance, which I had also seen through a local group back in high school in Vancouver called Kokoro Dance. It was, if you don't know, Ankoku Buto is a kind of performance art, kind of a slow, expressive dance, very much influenced by surrealism. And they usually paint their body in white makeup, and a lot of it is focused on dark music and face expressions and body movement. And a lot of the Buto movement had to do with sexuality, the body, and various social issues. It was very political. In fact, it was very transgressive in Japan at the time. Buto dance was something I wanted to learn, and I did learn, and I did end up performing it there. But getting into Japan opened a lot of doors for so many other things. And so, yeah, I think I'm just thinking, oh, after I get all the surgeries I want to get, I want to do a Butoh performance with my music to kind of represent the finality of it, the
Oh my
metamorphosis.
God, that is brilliant, Ebony, and I need to see it.
Yeah,
I
we're gonna have to
will
figure that
see
out.
it.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, that sounds so cool. I love
Wow.
that. I can't actually. That's super cool.
I do have a
Yeah,
question.
yeah, yeah.
So, Ebony, one of the things that we've slowly started to develop together with you, with Aruna, and a bunch of the members on Transgender Zone is this custom conversation and education around transitioning later in life. And so you mentioned there that you got to a point where it was too long. It was just too much for you. At what age did you start your transition?
So I am 44 now, and I came out when I was 40, and I started HRT finally like 41 right before my 42nd birthday. So that was, yeah, I started at 41. And it's been amazing. I thought it was too late. Like, or I
Yeah.
didn't think it was too late. I thought it was, a lot of the things I thought, I saw from younger trans people and the lifestyles that they were living. I didn't think that that was as possible for me being older. And I do know it's a very different experience coming out later in life. And um, but honestly, it feels like the clock is reset. And in a way, it feels like a second life coming back. So in some ways, I almost feel like my timeline has been reset to 20 years old. So
Wow.
yeah, coming out
Yeah.
later.
And I see it in you. I mean, first of all, I mean, you look gorgeous. You're aging backwards anyway, but especially considering like I've seen those photos you were talking about of before you coming out, being depressed and like not feeling good, not feeling like you look
Mhm.
good, and then now like it's literally a different person without even getting these surgeries and stuff. Like it's really impressive how far you've come, and I think it's also just so cool to see like the the life that comes out of somebody when they transition and the happiness that comes out just takes
Mhm.
years off. Because also when you see someone who is maybe like 60 or something and they're super happy, they're moving, they're like whatever, and you're like, how do you seem so young? And the answer usually is, I don't think of myself as old. Like it's very
Yeah.
much as long as you are happy, that's what matters. And you, Ebony, like you, not that looking 44 or acting 44 for that matter is a bad thing, but you look and just you have the energy of just a happy girl in her 20s, like just nothing I've ever seen before. If you were to say something to yourself, this might, you know, because I'm sure you could say a million things, but if you could say something to yourself, maybe 10 years ago, right before coming out, while you were in this downward, spiral, dealing with unhealthy coping mechanisms and whatever, like, what would you say to someone that's in that position now that's feeling like it's too late?
I would definitely say that everything gets better once you have the courage to jump across that barrier in your mind. So many things start happening.
Yeah.
Everything gets
Mm.
better. Hope comes back. And you were talking about before and after photos, as much as dramatic as some of the physical changes could be, or the presentation could be, the most dramatic always is the eyes. What you see in the
Mm,
eyes,
Yeah.
just
pure
life.
confidence,
Yes,
life and
confidence.
confidence. Yeah.
100%. And we see people on Transgender Zone who are maybe just starting their transition or like unsure, and they join because they want to, like, they know they're trans, but they're not sure if actually going through with the transition is even doable. And their comments will be flooded with people just like yourself being like, well, it's not too late at all. Look at me. I did this. I'm happy. I'm successful. I live a healthy, normal life as a girl, like as a woman. And I'm okay. And that gives people so much hope. I know, even as someone that came out young, I I had the advantage of, starting young and all of that, but I was alone. Like I was just in the middle of nowhere in a hick farmingville, and there was literally no one around me, and I didn't have anyone to talk to, anyone to like share my grief with. And while I had a great support network of like friends, family, thankfully, I just didn't have any trans people to talk to. And especially, I mean, the girls are keeping secrets. We've talked about this before. The girls are keeping secrets. We need to free the secrets. And that's what I like so much about Transgender Zone too, is that if someone's like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to like do my makeup, or whatever, this one product that I see everyone wearing, someone goes right in the comments. It's no gatekeeping. It's right away being like, oh, here's what I do. This is my little trick that I like to do this. And it's just like, it's like fast tracking your transition. It's so fun to watch and live vicariously through people. Like one of our members who just got FFS in facial team, like so jelly, like so jealous. It's so pretty. And I just love to see the progress. We get to see not only those big moments of success, you get to live vicariously through those really amazing early wins that you get, that we kind of went past and take for granted now. Like someone saying, oh my God, like I got mammed on the phone, or I went out with no makeup and I didn't get misgendered. Like that's huge. And that's something that we end up kind of taking for granted. And that's one of, I keep saying this, but one of the many, many reasons that I just love the platform that we have.
I would totally agree. And it is so rewarding to see the joy in people of all ages and
Mm.
all these firsts. And the thing I love about FFS videos is after they get the bandages off and they look in the mirror the first time, like the tears of joy and the smile of like finally like something I saw in the mirror for all my life that made me unhappy is gone. And all I see is me. And that is such like it brings me to tears every time I watch that.
Mm.
And I get the same feeling from our members. We are a community sharing experiences. And I think a lot of like non-trans people, they don't get to see the humanity of us. They get two extremes. They either get suffering or they get the glamour, and there's no in
Mm.
between. There's no journey, there's no story, there's no this social isolation. And I think there's just a lot of ignorance spread from propaganda and a lot of stubborn cultural norms from Western society that prevent people from seeing us as human. And that's why it's been so important to see each other as family and to take care of our own and to take care of our community. And I feel like a lot of people who have been privileged in certain ways kind of take that for granted too, that they need to go back and take care of their own.
Yes. And that's also like I've progressed far in my transition. I'm not like 100%, I want a little bit of tweaks here and there, but um, I I like being there as we'll say senior, like veteran trans woman. Well, maybe not veteran trans
Well,
woman.
mentor.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
somebody
as
who's
someone
farther
that
along.
has like, I've paid my dues and I've like spent time and whatever, I like being there just as much, not only because I learn things myself about my transition and I love the vocal training sessions because I'm still working on my voice. But I love to be able to share the knowledge and like help a trans person that's just starting out. Like it just makes me feel so good. And I also love that everyone else gets to have that feeling too. Because making my YouTube channel and stuff, it was great to get comments and all of that. And it's wonderful. But seeing it right there and being able to be like, oh my gosh, even if you're struggling right now, like nothing makes you feel better than helping someone else. And it's just like, I always feel I leave
Mm.
all of our sessions and all of our conversations on the forums just feeling better. And I also wanted to thank you, Ebony, for being such an incredible sport and an incredible moderator
Yeah,
because
seriously, thank
there
you.
have been many times that, we've needed her to jump in last minute or something, and she's been very happy to. I shared with our listener that our community circle hour which is now 2 hours, was not only suggested to you and you volunteered your time to do that, but also you volunteered to extend it because people just wanted to spend more time together. And that's really, really amazing. And it's very kind. And I know that our community appreciates it. And quite frankly, it wouldn't be the same without you. So I truly appreciate you being a part of the Transgender Zone family. And I hesitate saying things like family and like we're whatever, because
we don't want it to
can
sound
sound a little
culty. It's not
culty,
culty.
but it does feel at least community, it does feel that there's this level of closeness there that's really special.
I totally agree. And especially the Sunday community circle, just even people who are able to drop in for 5 minutes or so, they're instantly, that time with community can instantly heal you in so many ways, no matter what you're feeling, no matter how much dysphoria you're feeling at the time or whatnot. Um, and I feel that's such a reward. And talking about mentoring, being able to mentor people struggling with things that we've gone through, but also seeing people then pass that on and mentor each other is so rewarding.
Yeah.
Like seeing people swap phone numbers and practice their voice on the phone, or people living in close proximity actually meeting up in real life and becoming real life friends. And that's something I don't see in other communities. I feel like some people take it for granted, the concept of community. And what we have is very, very strong. I just, I love all my sisters there, and I got to know so many of them. And it's been such a beautiful experience.
It really has
Yeah.
been.
And as an outsider, I don't spend really any time inside of the
Right.
community.
It's a trans only space.
Yeah, for sure. And I hear what Victoria tells me about her experience. And one of the things you were sharing of like you mentor others, but I found that other people are farther along in other parts of their lives,
Mhm.
in other parts of their transition. And it's amazing to see that like Victoria might get a piece of advice, or someone might share something with Victoria that really personally and genuinely affects her in a positive way. And so it's cool to see one of the things that's so important about a solid community, a strong community, is that everyone's learning from each other.
Right.
Just because you are a mentor most of the time doesn't mean you're not going to learn anything and you're not going to grow during that process. It's beautiful to see that.
And I do like seeing people mentor, for lack of a better term, mentor one another that even might not have that many years under their belt in transition. Like I'll edit the name out just in case, but is a phenomenal example where she doesn't have as many years under her belt of transitioning. She transitioned later in life, but she looks amazing. She's very happy. And a lot of the girls that are on there, I'm saying girls because we have a lot of trans women on our space. So this is open to all kinds of trans folks.
Yes.
But she will share some knowledge about that you'd only acquire with age. She has perspectives about like loving yourself and looking back and like wishing you had certain things about your health, or you're able to move a certain way, or, don't worry about what this person thinks, or what, like, her perspective helps me in my transition and in my journey, and also outside of transition. It's just really cool to see. I mean, we have members, one of who that comes to mind is a retired pilot, worked on aircrafts, like building aircrafts, does all kinds of she's incredibly, we have Aruna, it's just so fascinating to see all the different people. But we tend to talk the most, other than our live sessions. We connect a lot with our members on the forums, the channels that we have there. And one of them you suggested we create, and I'm really glad that we did, and that's the Body Mods channel. So I didn't even really think about it, but body mods like tattoos, piercings, or some more extreme mods are all things that a lot of people do consider to be a part of their transition. Like for me, getting as little as just getting my ears pierced was a huge moment for me, because I was like, oh my gosh, just like all the other girls, like I wanted to go to Claire's and get like the little studs, even though it's so bad to go to Claire's, don't do that. But I wanted that experience, and I got it. So what are some tattoos, piercings, mods that you currently have that are maybe gender affirming, or what are some that you want to get? I know some of them are kind of in tandem with surgery, so you're welcome to mention that as well.
Yes. So I have a long standing tattoo on the right above my breast, and it has been kind of a Shinigami type of tattoo, kind of a, and I've always loved androgynous depictions of the angel of death, or Shinigami. And that's what I had here as my sort of totem guide throughout most of my life. However, the back piece that I want is going to be kind of a yurei with black wings holding two severed heads, and the bottom half is kind of a chaos star in flames. And this is her rebirth and kind of the death of everything from the past, starting over and being reborn from flames. Because as we do know, trans women are forged in fire.
Right.
So that's the back that I would love to have. I've got, I do want to have face tattoos, and I used to have a nose chain back in Japan, which I got at my friend's body mod piercing bar, which looked very much like the Akira kind of setup that you would imagine.
That's actually what I was imagining. So that's crazy.
Yeah. So I ended up getting it taken out because of work, and it got infected. But after FFS, I do want to start getting more work done on my face, such as getting my nose re-pierced after rhinoplasty, getting face tattoos, and then just getting like other tattoos. For example, I was wanting to get angelic script on both hands. So everything would have to mean something spiritual for me. I don't do it just for looks. It is part of the spiritual as well as physical transformation for me. And I've always been fascinated by extreme. One of my favorite trans body mod sort of icons or models is Veronica Blades. And I just love her videos and love seeing the work that she's done and the tattoos and everything. And it's just been a strong fascination of mine.
So I think it's so fascinating to see the body mod overlap in the trans community. And it's a lot more common than I would have even thought. It's really interesting to see, because tattoos can very much masculinize or feminize you. Like if there's an androgynous looking person and you put like hard American traditional, like sailor sort of tattoos, they'll look more masculine. If you do some more femme like they're going to look more feminine. And I think sort of representing the divine feminine on your body is going to be really, really special. And I can't wait to see how it looks. Waiting on the face tattoos is a good one, though, because you don't want to get it on your cheek and then all of a sudden it's on the forehead.
They pull it right up. Yeah.
I got the Joan Rivers wrapping around the head. So as we're drawing to a close on this interview, as a moderator, why would you suggest Transgender Zone to someone?
Oh, first off, we have to be very careful on the internet because it is an absolute angry mob out there, especially places like Meta or X or sometimes even YouTube. And it's just
Mm.
relentless on the mental health. And I feel like here is one of the very few true safe spaces for our community on an international level. And on top of that, we get so many things that we don't get elsewhere. For example, we have like so many resources, exhaustive lists of things that are up to date on, for example, trans legislation and bathroom bills and other sort of things going on in the world. And on top of that, resources for places that we can contact to get surgeries, etc. And so we get voice lessons as well. And I know that scouting out voice lessons in the past, it was seemed to be very expensive, but here we get 2 voice lessons a week. And that is very rare. That is a special, special thing. Even the ones here that are community provided and don't and are maybe free, there's a long, long, long wait list to get on. We have so many things here we don't have elsewhere, and the community engagement is what really sets it apart. Being able to create these friendships of with people across borders, across oceans,
Mm.
and yeah, being able to feel that sense of protection and community that we all feel whenever we are in one of our sessions. And that's not something that you can find anywhere else. At least I haven't found it. And we definitely need spaces like this because the world is becoming crazier. Culture seems to be regressing, and we need each other more than ever. I think for these public spaces where there's a lot of hostility, it's time for our allies to start stepping up and doing ally stuff.
Hmm.
Be-
Yes, it's about time. Like a rainbow
yeah,
flag isn't enough. Like putting up a rainbow flag or a rainbow icon during Pride Month, it's like if you put that target looking at you, if you're going to put all that, like stand up behind it, like hold your own, hold the line. I don't know why there's so much pre surrendering. So, yes, agreed on the allies and the engagement of the community is like the best part to me because ultimately, like trans people want trans friends. And so going on to Transgender Zone, like, guess what? Everyone there also wants to make friends. Like going on something
Yep.
like our really our only quote unquote competitor would be DIY transition of like watching random videos on YouTube and scrolling forums on like Reddit. But people there aren't there to make friends. Like on Reddit, someone might share a tip, but they're not there to like actually get to know people. With
Yeah.
Transgender Zone, we get like updates on people's transition. We get to make friends. The same few people will comment on your post, and you're like, wait a minute, I recognize that name. And you start to get to know them. And it's, oh my God, it's just such a magical experience.
yeah. And I think that it just makes me feel so safe and gives me so much hope. And because, yeah, it's so exhausting just being out there. And, if you go onto any meta app, on Facebook, anything about a successful trans person is met with millions of laugh reacts, or
Oh,
on Instagram, it's just endless hate comments.
yep.
And yeah, the worst are the people that think that they're righteous behind it because they're so ignorant. And when I'm thinking about humanity, I'm just like, I used to joke about this, but it's real. Is like, if you're having this much problem with us, how are you going to deal with the future when cyborgs, augments,
Right.
extraterrestrial contact, etc.? How are you going to deal with all of them being unknowns? And you can't even deal with the fact that people are able to switch genders. I
And they
mean,
call us snowflakes.
exactly.
Hmm.
Like they can't handle someone just being themselves, like two men holding hands in public, someone transitioning, like they lose their shit. They like cannot handle it. It's like really embarrassing to watch, honestly. Someone like Nancy Mace in the US Senate, I believe, sure, or Congress. Um, she is just embarrassing to watch where it's just like, oh my God. I knew that the cyborgs, the AI, but also a tyrannical government was inevitable, didn't think it was going to be this lame. So,
Yeah.
but with that being said, we hear a lot of the time in the queer community, thanks to the Trevor Project as well, that it gets better. Now, would you say that it gets better, and in what ways?
Oh, without a doubt. And I would say in my life, every way, any sacrifice that comes is totally worth it because I mean, whoever you lose from transitioning are people that are not meant to be in your life anyways. The people that love and accept you, they're your people. And so, yes, it indefinitely gets better. Your self image gets better because you're ultimately leaving behind, an imposed expectation from a society that is not meant to fit you. Um, and then you're walking towards yourself, you're embracing yourself, and you are being authentically you in a world where, um, everything will happen, everything you do will be authentic afterwards. And I feel it definitely, and I see other people blossoming in so many ways. Yes, everything gets better, even if it is knowing yourself more.
I love that. Thank you so much, Ebony, for being with us today. This has been so fantastic. Don't think you're getting off easy with the Japan and goth culture, because I will be asking you to be back on eventually to get more into that. Got a lot of questions.
I'm so excited.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ebony. And yeah, I mean, we will be seeing you in vocal training and around the community.
All right. See you in the community. Thank you, everyone. It's been an honor and love y'all.
じゃあね。ありがとうございました。
またね。
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. This was so much fun. And thank you to Ebony for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Ebony.
Just amazing. She's such a gem. We love her over at Transgender Zone. If you want to join the Transgender Zone community, then go ahead and go to transgenderzone.com. We have live group coaching weekly all the time. We got 2 every week for vocal. We got a makeup lesson from me. We got community hours with Ebony. I will link Ebony's SoundCloud and her music down below. So yeah, to find her there. And until we see you next time, make sure that you rate us wherever you get your podcasts. Give this video a thumbs up if you're watching it on YouTube. And until we see you next time, we hope to see you in the community, and take care of yourself.